Good afternoon, everyone. This is Julie with Book of Hours. It is 2:40 p.m. on Thursday, September 28th, 2017. This is some artwork that you're looking at right here. For some reason, it's really speaking to me lately, and I have a feeling it's because of the gray rock. Actually, it was JP, my fiance, that said, I have a feeling you're drawn to this particular piece because it's very calming to you, given the circumstances that you're in right now, where you're feeling nothing but extreme anxiety in preparation for the possibility that your family may try to commit more acts of sabotage and subterfuge against our wedding, which is coming up early November. So I'll be doing a couple of more pieces for the support groups that I belong to. This is specifically for people who identify as scapegoats of their family of origin. And in the DDT triangle, or the drama triangle in their family, they are in constant victim mode. And not as because they are self-pitying or are always trying to convince people that they are victims, but because they actually are victims. So I'm going to be calling this examples, and I don't really have a specific list that I'm going off of. Maybe what I'll do is when I'm done here, I'll tally it and I'll put in the number of examples in the title. But I'm just going to go through some different examples of narcissistic behavior, and I will use my own experiences as a way to frame those examples. So I guess the first example, first and foremost, would be the silent treatment. I've experienced the silent treatment pretty much my whole life, and the silent treatment is a foundational characteristic of the narcissist and the sociopath, or the narcopath. It's probably the number one, especially for covert narcissists. What I've noticed with covert narcissists is they can go back and forth in between being covert and overt. Overt narcissists usually are pretty always overt. They are overtly narcissists, meaning they usually have some very obvious, outspoken, outgoing characteristic that makes it really easy to identify them as a narcissist. For instance, alcoholism. Hitting the bottle a little bit too hard, say at your daughter's graduation party or at your son's wedding, that type of thing. So those are overt tactics, overt characteristics that could describe a narcissist. But the narcissist in my life, or the one that was in my life, I'm going to have to change my frame now, because since I've gone no contact and I don't plan on getting back in touch with this person, they are the narcissist. So rather than quantify or qualify the description as the narcissist in my life, I will just call her the narcissist. So the narcissist in my I almost did it again. The narcissist is covert, and one of the best covert tactics and one of the most obvious covert tactics of a narcissist is, number one, silent treatment. So especially when there's an event coming up, for instance, I have a wedding coming up in about a month, and I've been getting nothing but the silent treatment this entire year that everyone's known about it. So the silent treatment is a form of radical abuse, radical torture that is often used on, like, Guantanamo Bay detainees. It's one of the most effective and deadly and toxic forms of abuse that you can actually put on, that you can actually use against a person. So I have been the victim of the silent treatment my entire life, in various ways. I live 3,000 miles away from the narcissist, so it's easy to do the silent treatment when when there's that much time and distance between us. But I've also been the victim of the silent treatment in the middle of a family gathering where, she has orchestrated it so that every single person in the room has their back turned to me. And this happened at a Christmas gathering once. And, it was very strange. I felt completely alienated and completely tortured, completely deprived of any kind of recognition. And it was sad too, because I had gone there out of for a good reason. I wanted to spend some time with my stepfather, or my father who never adopted me. I wanted to spend some time with him, but there was a family member there who I don't really know that well. He is my step-grandmother's nephew, so I have no idea what that makes him to me. But I had met him once before, and then this was the second time of meeting him at this particular holiday gathering. And he had somehow ushered me into another room and wanted to show me some outtakes of his. He like does commercials sometimes, and he's an actor, and he does lots of different things that are. They all live like in that area of the country where that's like a big thing. It's like really Disneyfied. I don't know. So he was doing stuff like that, and I barely know. I don't even know him. I barely remember his name, but I thought it was really odd that he kept pulling me into the other room. He literally took my arm and he's like, no, come over here. No, come over here. No, here, let me distract you with this. No, come look at this. I'm like, but I've got to get back out. My family is out there. I'm the only one that's not a part of this event. Why are you trying to keep me from this event, which I flew 3,000 miles to be at? What are you, it feels like, what, and I was really confused by this. Well, in retrospect, I think what it was is the narcissist had taken him aside and said, I need you to distract her. I need you to keep her from the family. So that brings me to the second point. So after the silent treatment that particular day, I started to think about the other characteristic of a narcissist, and that is to tell your story. The narcissist will tell your story. And one of the reasons that I've gone public and decided to sort of fight back and gain my own agency in this particular subject matter is because the narcissist has had an opportunity to tell my story without my knowledge and without my permission for years. And there is no doubt in my mind that she and this person, this would have been my step-grandmother's nephew, I have no idea what that makes him to me, she and this person conspired to keep me from the family. Now, if someone had come to me and said, look, I need you to distract this person for me, I would say, I'm not doing your dirty work. Because, see, I'm an empath. And I live based on moral platitudes or a moral foundation. I would never do that. I would be like, I'm not doing your dirty work for you. Especially if that's your own daughter, who's flown 3,000 miles and spent her own money all the time, by the way. Many years I've, traveled out to see them, and they've never shown any appreciation for that. I would say, I'm not doing your dirty work. But the manner in which he was attempting to distract me and keep me from the family event was such that it wasn't just him wanting attention. It was a deliberate, sort of rehearsed, and he is an actor, sort of a rehearsed moment. And that told me that she's telling my story. So she's telling my story to him to make him go, oh yeah, that sounds like she's an awful person. Of course I'll help you out. And who else is she telling my story to? And of course it's not really my story, it's her version of my story. So, And I know for a fact I can give many examples, at least a couple of examples, of where people have said to me, you said this. And I was like, okay, I don't remember saying that. Why would I ever say such a ridiculous, salacious thing? Why are you trying to make me out to be some, person that I'm not, that I have no identifying characteristics in reality. In my real life, I have no identifying characteristics that would even perpetuate such a terrible thing, that I would say. So that's number 2. So of course, the first is the silent treatment. The second is telling your story for you, or telling a story that's a version of your story, based on the narcissist's malignant viewpoint of you. And the third thing is that when you get to a point where you're actually confronting the narcissist and it gets into like a heated debate and you start to feel a little hot under the collar and you start to show some very justifiable emotion, the narcissist will try to gain back control by saying, now calm down. Now just calm down. You're acting hysterical. Now just calm down. Okay, so they will, I don't know what that's called. Is that called taking control? Is that called placating you? But whatever it is, they will try to silence you and try to tell you that your emotions, your very justifiable responses to, whatever issues the narcissist has presented to you, and your response to those issues, they will try to demean your feelings about those issues. For instance, here's a for instance. I was accused of saying when I was a teenager that my parents should get a divorce. And my natural response was to become angry and say, first of all, I never said such a thing. Second of all, even if I did, you're going to hold something I said when I was 17 years old? You're going to hold that against me? And maybe mom and dad were having a fight at that point, and maybe they were fighting a lot. I don't know the circumstances. I don't remember the circumstances. It's been 30 years, and that seems really petty. And so you can see my responses are getting more and more clear, more and more grounded in reality, more and more firm, and my emotions are becoming more firm and I'm taking back my agency, and I'm becoming stronger in myself. And the narcissist doesn't like that. The narcissist will take that strength in you and turn around and say, calm down, you're acting hysterical. You see? So that's the third thing they will do, is they will diminish your natural responses to things that are unfair or unjust or just out and out lies. And you have a right to go deep within and get that strength and push and shove that strength right into their face and say, no way. So that's the third thing. And the fourth thing about a narcissist is they will also become hysterical. So narcissists, when they feel cornered and they know that they've slipped up, or they know that their little tactical games are starting to you're starting to poke holes in their little games, and you're starting to figure them out, and you're not reacting to the buttons that they push in you. You're simply going, yeah, I know you're playing a game. I'm going to stay focused on the real issue here. They will then use hysteria to distract you. They will then use a surge of emotion to manipulate the situation. So, so we'll just leave that at number 4. They use hysteria. They use high emotion when they feel that they are being exposed, when you're poking holes in their manipulative theories and their little game playing. They will become hysterical to distract from that. And that was number 4. And then number 5 is the flying monkeys. So narcissists need supply. And when you are a scapegoat, you are a constant source of supply to them, because scapegoats are empaths, and what they do is they forgive. And so the more you forgive, then the narcissist can come back into your life and then use you for more supply to make themselves feel good about themselves, or typically to make you feel bad about yourself. But when you start to step out of that role and you start to say, yeah, you know what? I'm sorry, but the whole scapegoat thing, it's really not working out for me anymore. Kind of like I'm doing right now in my life, 1 month before my wedding, which is really necessary for me to do since I will be getting married and entering into a new family. It's important for me not to enter into that role as a scapegoat, which is the role that I've played my entire life with my family of origin. So you, when you start to step out of that role and you identify as your own self and you no longer identify as the scapegoat, and you start to poke holes in narcissist's theories and her manipulative tactics, she will most definitely send her flying monkeys after you. And so that's number 5, flying monkeys. And flying monkeys can come in the form of siblings. They can come in the form of husbands. Like if the narcissist were married, I'm sure she would send her flying monkey husband after me. They can come in the form of in-laws. They can come in the form of friends, well-meaning friends of theirs who maybe will pop in and say, I'm really distressed by the fact that you and your mother aren't speaking, or something like that. That's not happened to me, and I doubt it will. But flying monkeys are, they're really not, I mean, they can be anxiety making. They can be threatening, I guess, to a person's sense of well-being. But really, they're just hot air. They're really not that powerful. They're just flying monkeys. You have to think of them as nothing more than just these really big, scary balloons that, you know, all you have to do is look at them hard enough, and then they get a little pinprick in their balloon and they lose all their air and they fall to the ground, you know, completely flat. They're really not, they don't have any power at all. They just do the narcissist's bidding. Sometimes they do it willingly, sometimes they do it unwillingly. It kind of doesn't matter. The flying monkeys are just there to try to intimidate you, and they can't. So that's number 5. And then the number 6th trait of a narcissist is charm and love bombing, which is a term that I hear all over the place when it comes to narcissistic personality disorder. It's interesting because I think a lot of people that I have been learning from, they like to say that the love bombing technique is like the very first notable technique of a narcissist. And I like to say that it's the silent treatment. And I think it really just depends on your personal experience with a narcissist. The love bombing, usually when you hear the term love bombing, it's meant to describe like a spouse or a significant other that you are romantically involved with. And so the first part of the relationship is just super lovey-dovey and just, you know, hearts and rainbows and unicorns and cupcakes and all that stuff. And it's just like over the top. But you can also have a parent play the love bombing game too. A narcissistic parent can also do that, where they just go on and on about, you know, what a great child you are, and they think that, and really what it is just a way to lure you into their web of deceit and their trap, so that they can use whatever negative things may come in the future, and that'll actually be I think we're on number 7, but I think love bombing is considered number 6. And that's just where they just do in this overabundance of gushing about you. And it's not sincere. And usually people who have critical thought or are empaths or, have their feet firmly planted on the ground and are just kind of like, salt of the earth type people, they usually know when they are being love bombed, and they usually know the insincerity behind it. So that brings me to number 7, and I'll probably close with number 7. Number 7 is using your mistakes against you. And that will tie in with setting you up and then having to come in and rescue you. And it's this kind of weird cycle of being the perpetrator of the abuse as well as the rescuer, and also using your mistakes against you. The only thing that I could say as a result of, like, to give an example of number 7, which is very nuanced, is to just tell you, like, an example of it. So I grew up in an authoritarian, narcissistic, gaslighting household. This was my experience throughout childhood. Now, the flying monkeys, my siblings, will tell you that that wasn't the experience, but see, they're not me. They didn't have the same experience I had, did they? So don't let anybody ever tell you that your experience is invalid. It's yours and yours alone. Own it. No matter how good or bad it was, it's your experience. So, since I grew up in a narcissistic, abusive, gaslighting, malignant, authoritarian household, I tended to find myself in those types of friendships. And I found myself friends, just friends, nothing, not like an intimate relationship with this person, just a girl that I knew, and she became a friend. I met her through work. And she's a classic sociopath, a classic narcissist. And so what she did was she broke the law, stole some things, and when I had to call the police on her, she then created a dialogue about me that wasn't true, and I got punished because of it. Then the narcissist, the narcissist, flew in and rescued me, so to speak. Well, I believe that this entire situation, not overtly, but more covertly done, was sort of orchestrated because of the constant abuse in my life and the constant being told that I was doing something wrong when I wasn't. These types of experiences then perpetuated in my life and manifested in my life as an adult. So it's using a process where they set you up to fail and then attack you when you call them out on being set up, when you know you're being set up. And that's exactly what this girl did to me. She stole my property, and then when I called the police and said, this is illegal what you're doing, she set me up to make me look like the bad guy. So, and that's really, that's like the simplest way that I can put it, And so these types of behaviors were so prominent in the family dynamic, from the silent treatment to the flying monkeys always attacking me, to, and saying that I'm doing something wrong when I'm not, and, just constantly being told my whole life that, that I'm the problem, and being a source of their supply, it, of course, it perpetuated itself in my adult life when I moved away and was living on my own. It's kind of like sitting there and eating a bowl of cancer for 40 years, and then expecting not to have cancer when you finally stop eating the bowl of cancer. Does that make sense? So number 7, like I said, is a little more nuanced. It's like the perpetuation of this idea of you being the scapegoat, perpetuating constantly reinventing within you. And that's a direct result of a narcissistic's parent's influence. That's not your fault. That doesn't have anything to do with you. It has to do with something that was imprinted in you as a child and was then came about when you went out on your own. And now that it's identified, I no longer, I can now see narcissists and sociopaths from a mile away, and I just walk the other way. I don't want to have anything to do with them. So, it's taken me a lot of years to figure this out. But, so number 7 is where they will highlight your mistakes, cause your mistakes, and then come in and rescue you from your mistakes. I guess that's the best way to put it. That's number 7. All right, thanks for tuning in. This is Julie with Book of Hours.